Here comes the money.
Here we go. Money talk.
Here comes the money.
The Guru, what's going on, my friend?
What is up, Dash? How are you?
What's going on, dude? It's great to see you.
Yeah, likewise. It's going well.
Good. I heard you got a big move coming up.
Big move, yeah. Going into a house with some of the buddies.
Love it.
Forward to that.
Absolutely love it.
Yeah.
Well, hey, man, let's dive right into it. I know our listeners have asked a couple times, actually, which is super exciting to have you on to kind of have you break down the model and how the sausage is made. You truly are one of the most data-driven handicappers, if not the most data-driven handicapper on the platform. And so I'm super excited for you to explain to our listeners how everything's done. So I would love for you to just kind of give a little background on yourself and how, you got into sports betting.
Sure. So, yeah, I am definitely very data-driven. And one of the reasons for that, I've been sports betting a while. I've always been a sports fan. And, before I really started looking at the data, I just was not doing that well with sports betting. And I'm just like, how is this not working? I know so much about these teams, just like every sports bettor feels like they do. And they probably do. But when you really start looking at the actual data, it kind of points out things that maybe our bias or something would overlook. And a lot of times, I might go into a game, okay, so-and-so is playing tomorrow. Lakers need this one. And then you run the model, and it actually shows, okay, the model's actually thinking the Nuggets win or the Nuggets cover, for example. And so those are kind of things that you wouldn't normally see or think without data. And essentially the way it kind of started is I started just pen and paper, adding numbers, using calculator and then comparing it to what Vegas had. And that was actually kind of working. And then it was all right, we moved to Excel, make it look a little cleaner. And then I got really into it. And so first thing was college basketball first halves. So to the listeners that were here when I had 500 followers, that's all we were doing. And they were electric because it's you find out in 30, 40 minutes if you win or not. But when there's 120 games on a Saturday, it takes a while to type it all in and write it out. So that's where Python, the scripting language, comes into play. And now it's just I wake up, I run the script, it grabs all the data from these specific websites that I have listed, and then it outputs it all into my Excel sheet. And then there's some conditional formatting in there to kind of give it that color code look so that the subscribers can kind of better understand it.
Yeah, you clearly have a background in computer science from what I understand based off of that description right there. Is it something that you majored in or something that you currently work in or whatever it may be?
Yeah, so I went to University of Texas at Austin, and I was a math major and a computer science major. So it's kind of the perfect combination, doing the analytics, using the coding aspect. And then, now I'm currently an engineer at Microsoft. So got a couple things on the plate. I am also about to finish up an MBA at Cornell.
Jesus, dude. Oh, my God. That is absolutely insane. Congratulations to you. Did not know that. So hats off to you. For anybody listening, you're clearly, if you are tailing this man, you're tailing a sharp cookie. So
my girlfriend is all right, you really want to take on one more thing? And I'm
helping other people beat the book is a good thing to take on. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about, out of my general curiosity, of how you choose what variables get dumped into the model. Are there certain stats? Are there weather conditions? Is that something that you just kind of pick and choose?
Definitely a lot of trial and error at first. So when I last season was the first time I ever did MLB, and that's kind of surprising to me and a lot of people because it went so well, especially before the All-Star break.
Yeah, but let me just interject and to applaud you. For anybody listening, it was a 45-3 free play run at one point, finishing the year 47-10.
It was 44-5 free play run at one point, and I remember I would tweet it out and people would be like, "You're literally lying," and I'm just honestly, it feels like a lie But like the people that were following me for a while, like they were riding them. I had people putting like their entire bankroll on them, which like of course I wouldn't advise, but then they would hit, and I'm like maybe I should be doing that. Yeah, no, the free plays were insane last year. We're I want to get them started pretty soon. We I really want to start though like with the plays like I'm absolutely the most confident about, just to really because I mean that kind of run like you want to keep that momentum, as much as you can.
Yeah, absolutely. And I completely threw us off track. So go back to kind of how you trial and error and how you pick and choose kind of what spots to put what stats and include what variables.
Yeah, so I mean, it honestly started really basic, like just taking some averages and seeing. I mean, just taking like scoring averages and seeing how they would compare to like the OUs especially, and that actually that worked pretty well. And then you kind of start getting more granular to figure to like because you gotta like baseball is so big when it comes to the pitcher. I do think though that sometimes pitchers are overvalued. A lot of the times, actually, it's kind of like what I was mentioning to you earlier. Like there are times where the model likes a play, and I'm like, oh man, we're going up against an absolute stud on the mound today. Like I don't know if I want to take that, and usually the hesitancy is not as worth it as you would think, and a lot of times the data will actually speak for itself. But yeah, so there's like weighted averages on like ERA, the batting averages of players versus certain types of pitchers. There's a ton of different. I don't really go into the whole weather thing. That is something that people have asked me about, but it is something that I just kind of keep in mind. That I mean, I would like to maybe start implementing something like that because like park factors, they do make a difference for OUs. We don't play a ton of OUs though, but no weather. It's a lot of weighted averages, and like for anyone that's looking to like maybe start getting into the data side of sports betting or just wants to do it for fun, like I definitely would recommend starting basic. You don't have to get super crazy with like a bunch of weighted averages. Starting basic will get you kind of a feel, and then depending on how well it starts doing or it's not doing, you can see like where maybe it's missing. Like okay, this the way I have it currently set up definitely is not factoring in pitchers nearly enough. Even though I said that they can be overvalued, they still obviously matter a lot. So, and then you would be like, okay, let me start factoring in, like, how do I equate this into a way to add, like a percentage of a winning percentage or a winning probability?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's super interesting. And one thing that you talked about, before we hopped on is trusting the model rather than going by your gut. And like when you do have a Verlander or you did have, Kershaw in his heyday, and your model's saying take the other side, it could be super scary.
Yeah, for sure.
But more often than not, have you seen that the data actually, backs up those spots?
Yeah, definitely. And like I was telling you, like I always hate whenever I like ignore a model play just because of like the outside noise or just like maybe a ton of other cappers that I respect are on one side, and I'm like, maybe this play isn't as strong as I thought. And then maybe I back away from it or I lower the unit size, and then it like absolutely smacks, and I'm just like,
Yeah, blowout winner.
I'm like, it was right in front of me, and I decided to sit on the bench. The worst though is whenever I go against the model and the model wins. That's what frustrates me more than anything, because it's like I just said, like I literally built this for these answers and I ignored it, or I disagreed with it, and so that model wins this round which is like I'm frustrated, but at the same time I'm like, attaboy model.
yeah, let's go. When do you determine to make tweaks to the model, and how often are those tweaks implemented? Like I imagine if the model's absolutely rolling, you're like, I am not even getting close to touching you. But if you do notice some variance or with the rule changes in baseball this year, like has that changed what adjustments you make to the model?
The rule changes, that was something that everyone was kind of curious about, whether that would affect just anyone's kind of perspective on sports or ability to gamble on MLB. But with the model, it hasn't really made that much of an impact, to be honest. Something that, like, I remember when we first started off, everyone was pretty eager to kind of get it rolling this year just because of last year's success with it. We started a little bit early as compared to last year. Like, we started about a month early, starting to use the model and things like that. And so dark green plays were not really hitting like we were used to. We like last year they were hitting at 78%, which was just, it was awesome. Whenever we had a dark green play, we're like, all right, 2-3 units, whatever, don't worry about it. And then they weren't hitting as much earlier in the season, and I was like, no, I was like, damn it, these are our babies right here. Like, we need these guys. And then now that we're kind of like further along in the season, we have more data. We're on 8-0. The dark green plays have hit eight in a row and are now 20-7 on the season. And so like now they're really starting to look like last year again, which is super encouraging. So I wouldn't say, I mean, there's different areas that have been changed a little bit. Like light green was a play that we used to play a lot as well. It was the younger brother of the dark green. And light greens just aren't really doing anything this year, to the point where I don't even color them in. We kind of ignore them this year. But something new that I did add this season, and I did this because it was working well with basketball, is I started tracking the Vegas money. Because I mean, I've always kind of thought a lot of it is noise, and people are like, oh, like so much money's on this side, you can't take that side, or the sharps are on this side because of the higher money percentage. And it's like, like, I don't know. I mean, there's definitely some truth to that, but I don't know if it's something to make or break a play. And so, like, overall, honestly, let me just look at this real quick. I can pull it up. Like, overall, the money percentage throughout this season, it's hitting around like 52%. Like, if you were to just take everything that had higher percentage money versus tickets, so like that's definitely not enough to make you jump off a play or jump on a play.
Yeah.
But it like 52% is definitely like, okay, there's some value here. Like, I mean, very little, and so that's why I got super granular with the money. And like, for example, it's kind of interesting, but like on Mondays, like the money is hitting at 61%, which is very weird. But what I like to do is I get extremely granular. So like, we discovered a spot on Tuesday when my model likes a team in a certain spot and the money disagrees. That money, like, so for example, the Dodgers were playing the Braves yesterday, and the model liked the Dodgers, the money was on the Braves.
Yeah.
That put the Braves in a 1-13 spot based on my money tracking. That means, so if we take the opposite, that's a 13-1 spot. And so we took Dodgers plus 170, probably the biggest dog I've ever taken. This model used to be very favorite centric. And so, yeah, we hit a plus 170 dog 8-1. And it was like, it's pretty fun to hit a dog because you're not really as worried about the risk, you know? Like, if you lose a favorite, you might be taking a minus 160 favorite, and then whatever bet you put down times 1.6, it's like, oh, that's a big loss.
Yeah. No, it's this is why it's fun hearing kind of what goes in the background, because I think you're aware of this. I am a subscriber of yours, and I have been for a while. I was a part of that 47-10 run, that really historic, just all of last year. So I appreciate that. Thank you for the added bankroll.
Happy to have you.
Got me some beer money for the weekends as a result, so much appreciated.
There we go.
So I get the plays every day, and you know, I see the model. I'll admit to you, sometimes I don't even know how to read it. I do. For anybody that is listening and wants to know what the hell we're talking about, head over to the Guru's Twitter account, and you'll see it's this beautiful spreadsheet, bunch of different color patterns, and there's a key based on how a team is colored or an over-under's colored. It shows the trends in that spot. And so
I can describe that a little bit if you'd like, just for some people maybe listening.
For sure.
Well, essentially, like you kind of want to match up. So you'll have the actual model output. It'll have all the matchups, my projected OU, my projected winner. And then throughout all the money lines, I have certain colors associated with them. So if you see, like the Astros were dark green on Sunday, Astros dark green, you go to the color scale, you look at dark green, it shows that teams in this spot are 20-7. So if you were to have taken a dark green team every instance this season, you would have 20 wins and 7 losses. And then there's also some like red coloring, which is generally going to represent a fade spot. And so whatever team is colored red, they might be like 2-8 on the season. And so if we take the opposite side of that, if we have taken the opposite side of those red plays all throughout the season, we'd be 8-2. So that's just kind of a quick little summary. And it's a little harder to describe without it being presented, but yeah.
Yeah, we'll show some visuals if anybody's listening on YouTube, and so they'll be able to check it out and see, or you can head to your Twitter account, because once those free plays start rolling, people are going to definitely want to be tuning in. Yeah, so you mentioned this year we're rolling again with that 8-0 dark green run. You have a very structured unit system, and you're very consistent with, dark green maybe being potentially 2 units, 1.5 units. How do you determine what the unit total that is being assigned to a given play is?
Yeah, so I like to, like, dark greens are usually going to be 1.5 or 2. We went 1.5 on the Rays that were dark green this week, and the reason being is because, like, the money line odds that they had on Bovada actually went down to make them the dog, even though they still were the team with the -1.5 given run line that you could bet on. And so it was kind of just weird to me. So I lowered it a little bit. But generally, we're going to go 2 units. And then now that we're on an 8-0 run, I'm debating 3 units on these dark greens again. And then, like, with other plays, like, for instance, we had light blue plays yesterday, which were 13-5 or 13-4 across this season and last season. But then if I look at just the 2023 tracking, they're actually only 1-3 this season for that particular day. And so then I'm like, okay, typically I would put 1.5 potentially, but I only put 1 unit on these because of it just not doing as well this year. So I like to, like, compare the last year's model. I mean, it's the same model, but it's different tracking. Last year's tracking with this year's tracking, and when they really align is when I will increase the unit size. And then there still is that bias that I mentioned and the outside noise that'll come in where, like, okay, like, the model loves this play, but it seems like I'm the only one.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I got people messaging me like, "You sure about that one?" And I mean, that happens. So I'm like, you know what? Let's not risk too much. And then potentially, like there's like 90% of the money on it, and I'm like, Vegas is pretty good at this.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm not gonna give them that big of a wager potentially. So there's like a lot of external things that will potentially increase or decrease a play. But with dark greens, I pretty much don't care what anyone or Vegas thinks. We're putting a lot of units on that.
Yeah, there's nothing quite like when I get the notification from the Dub Club Plays app, click in, I see a dark green. That's immediately what I do when I get the notification. Click in, I'm like scrolling right away.
I got my buddies texting me. They're like, "Dude, I'm going 5 units today," and I'm like, I'm like, all right. But then when it hits, I'm like, all right, you're buying my drinks this weekend. Like, all right.
Yeah, exactly. It's a fair trade. Very fair. Well, hey, this has been super insightful. I think that this is a great, starter episode, and then I want to check back in as we near the All-Star break. I'm super excited for your longtime subscribers. You truly have built a very loyal fan base and following, and I'm really excited for them to get kind of the inside look at how this is done and really hear how well-spoken you are and how smart you are with about 6 different degrees and badass job. So It was awesome having you on, and we'll have to do this again soon.
Absolutely, Dash. It was a pleasure.
Here comes
All right,
the
Guru.
money.